You know those moments when you're living peacefully, minding your own business, and someone barges into your life with entitlement so outrageous it feels unreal? That's exactly what happened to me when my neighbor, let's call her Karen, decided my private lake house wasn't mine anymore. According to her, it was the perfect venue for her daughter's 16th birthday party, and if I didn't hand it over, I'd better be ready for a lawsuit. Now, let me set the stage. My lake house isn't just some weekend getaway shack. It's a place I poured years of hard work and savings into. Every beam, every piece of furniture, and even the dock outside carries memories of long nights, family gatherings, and the quiet peace that comes with watching the sunset ripple across the water. It's not only my safe haven, it's my pride. But to Karen, it was nothing more than a free party hall. She showed up at my door one Friday evening, her voice dripping with fake sweetness. "We've been looking for a place special enough for my daughter's milestone," she began, as if she were announcing a royal decree. "And we all agreed your lake house is just perfect." I laughed at first, thinking she was joking, but her smile hardened quickly. "I expect you'll hand over the keys next weekend," she added flatly, as though my property rights didn't matter. When I told her no, firmly but politely, her eyes narrowed into slits. "You don't understand," she snapped. "This is bigger than you. My daughter deserves this. If you deny us, we'll take legal action. I'll see to it personally." It was the kind of entitled arrogance that takes your breath away. I wasn't just shocked, I was furious. The audacity of someone thinking they could threaten me into surrendering my home for a teenage birthday party was beyond anything I'd experienced. But as I stood there, refusing to back down, Karen smirked in that way only people convinced of their own superiority can. I knew right then this wasn't just a neighborly dispute, it was going to escalate, and the deeper she dug her heels in, the more determined I became not to let her win. What I didn't realize was that this battle would spiral far beyond my expectations, and end with the state attorney stepping into the fight. The morning after Karen's ridiculous demand, I thought maybe she'd cool off, realize how insane she sounded, and drop the whole idea. But no, if anything, she doubled down. Around noon, I heard a loud knock at the door, the kind that screams confrontation. I opened it to find Karen standing there with her daughter, a girl dressed like she already thought she was the queen of the world. Karen crossed her arms and spoke before I could even greet her. "We've decided next Saturday is the perfect date. We'll need access Friday night to set up decorations, food, and music equipment. Don't worry, we'll clean up after." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Let me stop you right there," I said. "This is my house, not a rental hall. The answer is no. End of discussion." Her daughter rolled her eyes and muttered, "Ugh, this place is ugly anyway." But Karen wasn't ready to give up. She leaned in close, lowering her voice like she was revealing some big secret. "Listen," she hissed. "You don't want to make enemies in this neighborhood. We've got friends on the HOA board, and I'll make sure your life here is miserable if you keep being difficult." That's when I realized this wasn't about a party anymore. It was about power. Karen thrived on intimidation, and she was convinced she could bully me into giving her what she wanted, but she had no idea who she was messing with. I refused again, calmly but firmly. That's when she dropped her nuclear threat. She waved a folder in my face, claiming it was a draft lawsuit her cousin, who she insisted was an attorney, had already prepared. "We'll sue you for discrimination, for denying us access to community property," she declared. Community property? That lake house was deeded in my name, paid with my money and maintained by my sweat. But Karen had twisted logic on her side, and she wielded it like a weapon. I told her flat out to get off my porch. She left, but not quietly. As she stormed away, she shouted loud enough for half the block to hear, "You'll regret this when the court makes you pay." By that evening, the rumor mill was already buzzing. Neighbors started calling me, asking why I was refusing to let Karen's daughter have her special day. She had spun the story to make me look like some cruel, selfish villain who hated children. At that point, I knew things were only heating up. But what Karen didn't realize was that her threats were about to bring the wrong kind of attention, legal attention. By the next week, the drama had snowballed into something straight out of a soap opera. Karen wasn't just gossiping anymore. She was actively campaigning against me. Flyers appeared in mailboxes claiming I was hoarding community resources and denying neighborhood youth their joy. She even posted in our local Facebook group, painting herself as the devoted mother fighting a cruel, selfish recluse. The comments section lit up. Some people supported her, others mocked her entitlement. But one thing was certain, Karen had stirred the pot, and she wasn't letting it settle. Then came the letter, official looking, sealed in a manila envelope, and left right at my doorstep. Inside was a notice of intent to sue, signed by none other than her cousin, the so-called lawyer. The letter accused me of violating community trust, restricting access to public waters, and demanded immediate surrender of my lake house for reasonable use. I almost laughed at the absurdity, but part of me was furious. Who did she think she was? This wasn't a public park, it was my property. Still, the idea of being dragged into a messy legal situation gnawed at me. I decided to get ahead of it. The next morning, I drove downtown and scheduled a consultation with a real attorney. After reviewing the letter, he chuckled and shook his head. This isn't worth the paper it's printed on. Her cousin's bluffing, but if she files anything, it'll waste your time and money, so document everything. And so I started keeping a log. Every note on my door, every Facebook post, every hostile interaction, I saved it all. Because deep down, I knew Karen wasn't going to back off easily. Sure enough, the following Friday, I came home to find balloons tied to my mailbox and cars lining the street. My driveway was blocked, and I could hear bass thumping from the lake house. Karen had broken in. She and her entourage were stringing lights across my dock, dragging in speakers, and hauling coolers onto my porch like it was their personal party palace. I stormed down, demanding they leave immediately. But Karen, standing smugly with a glass of wine in hand, just smirked. It's happening, whether you like it or not. You can call the cops, but when they see my paperwork, they'll side with me. That was the breaking point. I didn't just call the police. I called the county attorney's office. If Karen wanted to play legal games, she was about to discover just how badly she'd overplayed her hand. When the police arrived, Karen was already in full performance mode. She greeted them like honored guests, waving her bogus legal papers as if they were royal decrees. See, she told the officers, this property is part of the lake community, and my daughter has every right to celebrate here. The officers read the papers, exchanged a look, and then turned to me. I handed over my deed, along with the folder of documentation I'd been keeping. One officer let out a sigh. Ma'am, this house isn't community property. It belongs entirely to him. You can't just throw a party here without permission. Karen's smile faltered, but she wasn't done fighting. This is discrimination. She deserves this, she shrieked, pointing at her daughter, who was sulking nearby with her friends. The officers warned her to leave, but Karen refused. That's when they called in a county investigator to review the complaint formally. And as fate would have it, that escalated the matter straight to the state attorney's office. Within days, Karen's little stunt was no longer just neighborhood drama. It was on the radar of people who actually had power. The state attorney reviewed her cousin's lawsuit and laughed it out of the building. Not only was it baseless, but it bordered on fraud. Filing false claims, trespassing, harassment, it all stacked up against her. The state attorney called me personally. You did the right thing documenting everything, he said. We're not only dismissing her nonsense, but we're also considering charges against her for falsifying legal documents and criminal trespass. When I broke that news to Karen, she finally cracked. Gone was the smug smile, replaced with trembling rage. You'll regret this, she shouted. But this time her voice carried no weight. Everyone in the neighborhood had already seen her meltdown, and now the law itself was against her. In the end, she was fined for trespassing, slapped with a formal warning, and her cousin's law practice got reported to the state bar. The sweet irony? Not only did Karen fail to get my lake house, but her daughter's special birthday ended up happening in their cramped backyard with a handful of pity guests. As for me, I got my peace back. My lake house remains exactly what it was meant to be, mine. And every sunset I watch from that dock feels a little sweeter knowing entitlement doesn't always win. Sometimes the law stands firmly on the side of common sense. So the next time someone thinks they can bully their way into what's yours, remember this story. Stand firm, because sometimes the best victory is simply not giving in. So what do you think? Was Karen right or was I? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this story, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the bell so you never miss the next crazy Karen drama.